Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, coming back at you again, being joined by my buddy from the Oklahoma area, Mr. Daniel Chamberlain. Daniel, what's happening, bud?
Man, it's another great week, Mike. We are had to shave. You saw it immediately. Post annual training with the National Guard. 19th anniversary for the National Guard tomorrow. So, it's a big Army weekend. But yeah, all things considered, I can't complain.
Awesome. And once again, thank you very much for your service. I got my Army green going on right now today with my flag shirt here, a little Under Armour.
Get it?
Just by coincidence, but it all works. It's always a good thing.
It does work.
So today, Daniel and I are going to jump into Rule 7, snapping the ball, handing the ball, passing the ball, different things like that. But before we dive into that, we got to do our normal spiel of making sure that you hit those like buttons, those subscribe buttons, give us some comments, positive, negative, whatever is on your mind. Let us know what you're thinking. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, all the other podcast stations, along with YouTube. So just search up Whistle Talk or search up Mike D, the referee, and we are out there for you. I am out there for you. Daniel has been out there for you. And all the materials are out there for you because now, Daniel, by the time this goes public, by the time we go produce this one and set it out there, we'll be in mid-June, which means we're about 6 or 7 weeks away from practices beginning, from all that fun stuff at both the youth and the high school level. Colleges already had their spring games. They're kind of in a down period. The NFL is in their vacation mode right now for a week or so until they ramp it back up again after mini camps. But soon we're right there again. So we're going to be finishing up with these rules and then rolling right into our football season. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. It's an exciting time of the year. I actually just produced and edited and pushed out our episode today for Coaching 101 podcast on summer scheduling and just like what are your, what limits you and what do you really need to be working on and all that good stuff. So fresh new episode dropped today. I realize this comes out some other time. So drop that one back on June 19th. Should have lots of good summer stuff coming up.
Yeah, great stuff. And for those that don't know it, check out those different sites. Joe Daniel Football Football 101 with Daniel and Kenny Simpson. So you got those two main ones that are out there with the coaching world. So check those ones out. And again, my referee friends that are out there listening, they're good listens for us too, because we can learn something about what is going on inside the mind of a football coach. So we have a better idea too, just like we want the coaches to have an idea what we're thinking. Well, it helps us out too, knowing the situations.
Yeah, you can throw a flag on deceiving the opponent on every play because I'm trying to deceive the opponent on every play. Let's go. That's what's going on in my mind.
All right. So with that, we are going to share our screen here as we dive into our little presentation here on rule number 7. So Rule 7, talking about before the snap, formations, numbering, different things like that. And you're going to hear a lot of the different things today, ladies and gents, that we've kind of won over with Rule 2. So if we're a little bit quicker on that particular slide, talking about the definitions, we went over the definitions and we did discuss the definitions. So a lot of the stuff is going to be repetitive, but it falls under the Rule 7 area in the book. So fumbles, backward pass, forward passes, different things like that. So with that being said, let us begin rule number 7. And y'all, I always like to pass off the first one. Would you like to take the first one again?
Absolutely. Definition, snapping the ball. The snapper is Team A lineman who snaps the ball. Just for clarification, as a coach, this can be anyone. They just have to be on the line of scrimmage to snap the ball. We used an H-back last year to snap the ball all the way across a formation to a quarterback to run outside zone away. So that was pretty fun. A snap legal act of passing. We're handing the ball backwards from the ground. Snap begins when the snapper first moves the ball legally, other than an adjustment. Movement must be quick and continuous backward motion of the ball. Must immediately leave the snapper's hand or hands and touch a back or the ground before it touches a Team A lineman. Snap ends when ball touches the ground or any other player. The third little section there's a good one. You can't just snap it to another line. You can't just turn and hand it to the guard.
Correct. The old school fumble rule street play will also be coming in, and we'll talk about that one where the quarterback's placing it right on the ground underneath the center's feet, and the guard or tackle are pulling around and pick it up and go the opposite way, which that happened to me once in college, and man, it sucked because it wasn't me that was running it. We were on defense at the time. I always tried getting my coach to put it in. I'm like, come on, coach, let's do it. Well, anyway, so here we go. Before the snap, the snapper 7-1. The snapper may be over the ball, but their feet must be behind the neutral zone. And you can see our diagram that we have here of our center from the old school Washington Redskins, now the Washington Commanders. No part of the body other than the hand on the ball may be beyond the foremost point of the ball. Snapper may lift the ball for lateral rotation, but they cannot rotate it end to end. And following the ready for play and after touching the ball, the snapper shall not remove hands from the ball, make any movement that simulates a snap, fail to clearly pause before the snap, or lift or move the ball other than in a legal snap. And the snap infraction is a 5-yard penalty. We're basically going to be calling this like a false start type of penalty. So I want to go back to the first one, the second part of the first one, where no body part other than the hand may be on the ball, may be beyond the foremost point of the ball. We've had some coaches that don't like the fact that some snappers, some centers, I should say, have short arms. Some centers are a little stumpier than other linemen at times. So sometimes their helmet might be over the ball. And as you can see in this picture, the helmet is over the ball in the neutral zone. We're not going to call that. The center is the one person who can be in that neutral zone. So the helmet, now we've also had at times where the ball is kind of nudged underneath the center's hips where their head is beyond the foremost point of the ball. And technically that's going to be a penalty. But again, if the individual has shorter arms and they're doing it the entire game, we're typically going to let it go. If it's something that is different and all of a sudden they're doing it for deception and all of a sudden maybe it's on just a fourth down play and they're looking to try to move everybody up on the ball or whatever it may be, well, then we could have an issue. But as long as they're consistent with it, we're typically not going to call it. And we're going to let the coaches know on the sidelines, both offensive and defensive side, saying, hey, coach, listen, he's done that from snap one. He's shorter, or you can't penalize somebody for being short. So we're gonna kind of let that one go.
I can understand as long as there's the consistency in the communication. Before you move on, I see you're about to click it over there. Lifting the ball for lateral rotation, but not end to end. So if my center always snaps it from the point, is that just a pre-game communication with the ref to say, hey, my center every single time is going to pick the ball up. He's going to put his middle finger on the laces and hold it. I mean, he's technically moving it end to end, right? Because he's lifting one point of the ball into the air. So how does that communication work to be able to do that snap?
Yeah, so we usually like to tell the coaches to have this, if they're going to go from the point, it's typically going to be, a lot of centers do it from the back point.
Yes.
So they'll tilt the ball up, basically going towards the defense. And as long as they're picking the ball up from the back point and they're not moving the ball too much forward, they're just moving it onto the front tip in essence, we don't really have a problem with that. One thing I like to do is pregame when I go as an umpire, I go and I talk with all the centers and I communicate with them. I try to get, are you a righty or a lefty? Do you like to snap the ball with the laces or without the laces? Doesn't matter. I'll try to set the ball. And you can see in this image diagram that it's a right-handed center. He's basically got his right fingers on the laces, so kind of turn it. So I'll try to set it for them so that they don't even have to do that lateral rotation for it. And the same thing with your long snappers. We're going to give a little leniency with the long snappers of rolling the ball. And again, we typically tell them, if you got to roll the ball, roll the ball. But now it's when some long snappers, particularly, they'll come out and they'll pick the ball up to adjust it into their hands. And we're like, hey, you can't be doing that. And we try to get that at the freshman and JV level, because I've had freshman kids come out and literally pick the ball up on the completely from the ground, adjust it in their hands, and then go over. And I'm like, son, that's going to be a penalty next time you do that. But it's week 1 of a freshman season, so let's learn from that. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. At least you're communicating.
Yeah, especially with those younger kids, we definitely like to do that. All right, Daniel, 7-1, encroachment and false starts.
Before the snap, encroachment and false start. Encroachment after the ready for play and snapper places hand on the ball. Any other player breaks the plane of the neutral zone. This includes Team A or the offense lining up incorrectly. A B or defensive player makes contact with the ball prior to the end of the snap. That's a good one. You can't just swat the ball out of the center's hand as he's attempting to get it to the quarterback.
And where will you see that?
Yes. My older brother used to be really good at that. B player makes contact with the hands or arms of the snapper prior to release. So same thing. You can't fudge his snap by trying to break his wrist or whatever. And penalty is an encroachment, 5-yard dead ball fouls. Dead ball meaning the you would stay on the same down, all of that, right?
Yep.
False
And
start.
if the clock wasn't running, the clock still wouldn't be running. So we want to kill this one before the play. And you see there's 2 signals for this: signal 7, signal 18. Signal 7, we're signifying that it's a dead ball. So you'll see the hand go up first. So that's going to say dead ball foul. And then the encroachment is your NFL offsides penalty, hands on the hip.
There you go. False start only by Team A. So B cannot, the defense cannot cause it or not commit a false start. After ready for play and before the snap begins, a shift or feigned charge that simulates action of the snap. An act clearly intended to cause B to encroach. Any lineman between snapper and end with hand down, moves hand, or quick movement. Penalty, false start, 5-yard dead ball foul. So I got a question here because we often like to shift our players. So if my tight end comes up and puts his hand down, he's on the line of scrimmage on the left side of the offense. If he, not super quick, but just picks up his hand, steps back, moves to the other side of the formation, and puts his hand back down, is that a false start or is that just a shift? Because I can go from any formation to any other formation, right?
Correct. But what we're saying, it depends on where they are. By rule, that is a false start once they put their hand on the ground. So when they put their hand in the ground, and our next slide here is they're locked in. More so when in this diagram, you could see they are covered. The tight end is covered, so they are technically ineligible by this formation. 90%, and I'm saying this in a very general type of sense, 90% of the shifts are going to happen before that tight end is putting their hand into the ground. They're going to shift prior to that and then get set. But technically, once their hand is in the ground, their hand has to stay in the ground, because anything that comes up, even if it's not in a sudden movement, as that hand coming up could draw the defense to jump. So when their hands are down, we're looking to lock them into place at that point in time.
So same idea here. We're locked in as you have shown. We obviously have my tight ends covered up. I don't want him covered up. Is the only way I can fix that is to move the receiver off and put the other receiver on. I can't let him be the adjuster. I mean, obviously here we got to have a certain amount of people on the line, but
if his hand was in the ground, he cannot adjust at that point. So you would have to knock that receiver back.
Locked in.
Yes, you're still looking to have that. Still looking to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage, 4 in the backfield. But we're going to talk about that with the formation, because you can have 10 on the line of scrimmage if you want. So just have to know who's ineligible and who's not. All right. Other encroachment and false start notes. If a false start penalty causes B to encroach, only the false start is penalized. And this is where now when somebody jumps and then the defense jumps, you're going to see hopefully the 2 short wings coming in and talking with each other, or at least through the O to O's, to figure out who moved first. Did the offense cause the defense to encroach, or consequently, did the defense cause the offense to encroach? So we gotta communicate with that and know who we have, and hopefully one has a clearer view that can say, no, definitely the defense jumped or the offense moved, caused the defense. So we're going to talk about that. All encroachments and false starts, snap infraction are dead ball fouls, which we talked about. So the added to this is there's no such thing as a free play in high school. Like you see in the NFL, that defensive lineman jumps off sides because Brett Favre, Peyton Manning were notorious back in their day of getting people to jump off sides with their hard count. Aaron
For sure.
Rodgers still today does it to get that free play, get them off sides, and then all of a sudden they're going up for a touchdown. It's a free play, so it doesn't matter. High school, it's killed. It's right away. So there
We
is no
don't.
such thing as a free play.
Right. So we don't get that in high school, unfortunately.
Correct. And no B player shall use disconcerting acts or words prior to the snap to interfere with A signals or movements, such as yelling the snap count, clapping if A's cadence is a clap, or anything unnecessary intended to draw A into a false start. This will be a disconcerting act. It was a 15-yard penalty. It's now been reduced to a 5-yard penalty in the last year or so. It used to be a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty, but it is now a dead ball, disconcerting act. Play 5-yard penalty on the defense. So, and this one's a hairy one too, because as the umpire, I'm in the defensive side. I hear the linebackers communicating, and a lot of defenses when they're stemming, when they're shifting their defensive line, everybody's cadence is a little bit different. So sometimes they're just trying to get their shift to go and have their linemen to shift. And the offense can sometimes think that that's a snap infraction or a disconcerting act, I should say. That's something that I'm really trying to pay attention to. And we have nailed the defense trying to call out the cadence, but then there's other times where the center's like, they're calling out our cadence. I'm like, no, they called out shift and
Right.
not set or something like that. So just trying
that's
to be aware of it.
we hear a lot of complaints on that. When I feel like as coaches on the sideline, we have a lot of complaints, but especially as a defensive coach in my my origin, we're gonna be talking. We want to move and stem and shift, and if you say shift to make movement happen, and we say shift to make movement happen, why can't I use my word? Or
Well,
what I mean,
and
like
that,
the clapping. We've seen clapping, and like defense doesn't use clapping, so if we're doing that, it's pretty obvious. But we do use a lot of keywords to do different things, right? So it does make it a little weird. I don't know. I can't hear on film what your cadence is. So I guess, if it was clapping, of course, we're in trouble. But if we say go to shift my people over a half a man and you use go to snap the ball, that's not my fault. So it makes it
yeah.
weird.
And it's one of those judgment type of calls. Typically, I'm looking for it as an umpire of what's the scenario, what's the situation that is going on. Because if it's a fourth down type of play, this is typically where your defense is going to possibly do something like that to get somebody to jump off sides
We would
to get the
never.
offense to move.
We would never.
Yeah. That gamesmanship comes in there. So knowing the situation and understanding what's going on and when it's happening is something that I have to take into consideration as an umpire, because this again is typically going to be my flag on the play. So, but
So
it can be across the board. It can be any official that catches it.
good. Another question, and it may be covered in another slide. I don't know, but just my movement, my stemming defensive line makes an offensive lineman move. Have I committed encroachment, or has he committed a false start?
As long as your movement is not sudden, it is going to be a false start. And this is actually something that NCAA put into play this past year. If your movement, if your stem is a sudden shift hard and the offense jumps off sides, that's going to be on the defense for the disconcerting act. Right now, NFHS hasn't changed that. So your stem, so let me rephrase my initial answer to you. It's going to be on the offense with the shift. In the NCAA, they're trying to ban that and making it so that it's not a sudden movement, that they want it to be a natural shift. So moving from a left-handed stance to a right-handed stance, that's fine. But what you'll see, I don't know if you remember this, Daniel, with some people would say shift, and all of a sudden their 4-down lineman would do like a belly flop and pop back up into their stance and not really go anywhere. That's a disconcerting act. That's trying to get somebody to jump off sides. Another one that a lot of people don't realize is when a defensive person steps to the line and stomps their foot. trying to simulate the snap, that can be a disconcerting act. So that is one that we do have to be mindful of, because you do see that a lot with a linebackers trying to step up and getting the center to snap the ball early.
Yeah. Makes sense.
All right, so moving along, here we go back to some definitions here that we've already talked about. So I'll run through this one very quickly. Going back to 232, back is a team player with no body part breaking the waist of their nearest lineman. A lineman is an A player who is facing the opponent's goal line, whose head or feet is breaking the plane through the waist of the snapper or the center. And a scrimmage formation requires a minimum of 5 A players legally on their line at the snap. So these again are going back to Rule 2 for our definitions, and why Rule 2 was so important that we broke it into 2 segments, because they all come into play here. So we got ourselves a little picture here, high school game, and you could see picture on the left, you got a legal formation. Picture on the right, you could see that guard and tackle on the top of the screen there. They're kind of nudged back. Now, me as a defensive guy, I'm anticipating some type of pull going on here, where they're looking to scoot themselves back to clear the center's hip, so that they can pull probably some type of GT counter going on here. But technically, that is an illegal formation, because their helmet has not broken the waist of the snapper or of the center. Now, Daniel, if you take notice of our field that we have here, we have no hash marks.
Yeah.
We
That's
have
tough.
a grass field that's got no hash marks. I would even sit there and argue with you that the right tackle or the tight end on the right side here is lined up in the neutral zone. But this is where having those grass fields where the teams don't put all the hash marks come into play, that it's difficult for our short wings of really assessing this one, because both teams sometimes line up a little cockeyed.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like the kids need those as well to identify when am I, we're talking parallel, perpendicular, whatever. I'm just lining up in this giant green area. What's telling me that I'm too far forward or too far back? The place of the ball is not real because the center's going to move it with his hand, right?
Yep.
It's a good point.
So, but this one we should give a little warning to the coach. Coach, make sure your left side is up further, and we're communicating that. And a lot of times they'll come to the O to O, and either the referee or myself will go to the huddle and say, "Hey guys, make sure you move up, check where you are." And as all wide receivers are taught to do, identifying if they're on the ball or off the ball, I'm going to throw this one onto the defensive side. Defensive backs, when you're in some type of press, if you're looking to be an edge rusher and come hard off the sideline, look to your short wing and make sure you're lined up on sides, because they're going to help you out too. So especially that press coverage with the receiver that's on the line of scrimmage will help you out. No, take a step back, you're in the neutral zone, different things like that. So we'll try to do it pre-snap. And defensively, you can move backwards, where the offensive guy, we're going to keep them frozen there as long as they designate where they are on or off. We're not going to shift them, because then you got your pre-snap violation. All right, so Daniel, formation positioning requirements 7-2, continuing with Rule 7.
Yep. After ready for play, each A or offensive player and substitutes must have been between 9-yard marks momentarily before the snap. So this is preventing that sneak a guy off the sideline out there by the sideline throwing a pass. The 2 players next to the snapper, the guards, generally known as, may lock legs with the snapper. Anyone else must have each foot outside the closest foot of the player next to him. That's something I've never even considered. We pull guards. Why would I want his legs locked up? That's weird.
Field goals and extra points are typically the only places I've ever seen it.
Yeah, and we lock legs with everybody. Is that not really allowed?
So
But we do it on
at
the
the
snap.
initial, correct. Yeah, you're taking that step down.
Yeah, touche. Okay. No more than 4 players may have backs. May be backs. I'm sorry. So essentially anyone off the line of scrimmage. It is no longer 7 players required on the line of scrimmage. Just a good one to know for your hurry up offense. You're just trying to go out and get a play snapped. Yes, you know who's covered up, but if it's a run play, no one cares. And as long you can have 10 people on the line, right? As long as you don't have more than 4 in the backfield.
And consequently, this one also falls into play if your offense only has 10 players on the field.
Yeah.
If you only have 10 players on the field, you still have to have those 4 in the backfield. So we're making sure that there's no more than 4. it is no longer a penalty that requires 7 players on the line of scrimmage. So if you only had 6 on the line of scrimmage and 4 in the backfield because you have 10, we still got a good formation. And you're going to see officials. We usually give a little signal, but myself, the umpire, and the referee, we're in charge of counting the offensive players. We're going to use the signal we use is we kind of just give a 10. We tap our chest with 5 and 5 open hands. Other than that, once we see 11, we're kind of giving a fist like, okay, they're ready to go. We got 11 on offense.
Perfect. So to reemphasize there, you just can't have more than 4. You can have 7
Correct.
and 3. You can have 8 and 3. You just can't have more than 4 in the back. Should be good to go. And then only one A or offensive player not on line of scrimmage may break the plane of the snapper's waist, must be in position to receive the hand-to-hand snap. So essentially, a quarterback being old school under center is the only person that can be in front of the waist of the snapper. Everyone else's helmets are supposed to line up on, we tell them helmet ear to the bell buckle or whatever.
Correct. Now, the penalty for this is going to be a live ball foul. So this one can almost be a free play for the defense because we're going to let this one play out when we have the illegal motion, illegal formation, different things like that, because this foul is not technically illegal until the ball is actually snapped. So the offense can adjust, shift like you were talking about, but they then need to be set and inside the 9s for the moment. We try to say 1 second, but it's that moment, that pause, and then it's a live ball foul. So if the play goes on and the ball gets intercepted, we're going to have an illegal formation on the offense. We're going to decline that. First down for the defense. All right, and here's our communication that we're doing like we just talked about. So this typically is going to be our short wings where we're communicating across the field if we don't have our O to O, but we also do this because the coaches like to see and understand who's on the line of scrimmage and who's off the line of scrimmage. So if you see one arm back, and here in New Jersey, we're taught to hold that one arm back, where other areas, the mechanics is they're going to punch them back and then they bring their hand back down. But that signifies that the nearest receiver is off the line of scrimmage. Hand to the face or across the body signifies that you have more than 3 people on your side. So sometimes we have guys that, like, if they're in a trips formation, they'll give a 3 and punch back so that the receiver, the short wing on the opposite side, knows that we have trips going on over there. Your O to O's are available, so we're going to talk with each other. And if we have an illegal formation, we try to have both short wings throw the flag on that. Okay. The flag should come from both wings when there's more than 4 in the backfield, because we both should be talking about it and communicating it. And this kind of just reinforces, this is one of the few times where we do have what we call a Me Too flag, but this just shows that, hey, he had 5 in the backfield. I also had 5 in the backfield. We're both going to throw that one. So we don't like throwing 2 flags too often, but this is one that it just shows everybody what we have going on. Okay, and again, here's our formation on the bottom. He's punched back, and he would probably give a 3 because we got a tight end with then 2 receivers outside. For me, when I still officiate and work the short wing, I'm going to give a punch forward when they're on the line of scrimmage, because I'm trying to give them a landmark to show that they're on the line of scrimmage, and then I'm going to bring my hand down. But that little punch forward just kind of shows, okay, here it is. And usually I tell the receivers as they're coming out, my back leg is your line of scrimmage, because I like to straddle and be over the ball. So you don't want to be at my front leg, you want to be at my back leg. And I'll give you a little punch with my inside arm saying, okay, you're on, and then we're going from there. All right, our numbering requirement. Daniel, go ahead.
Yep, at least 5 offensive players or Team A on the line of scrimmage must be numbered 50 through 79. No players of the same team shall both participate while wearing the same number. So obviously you can't have repetitive numbers. Penalty, illegal numbering, whatever S19 is, signal 19, 5 yards, and it is a live ball foul. Of course, there are exceptions. So what are the exceptions here?
Glad that you asked. So our scrimmage kick formation will be one of them in our definition 214-2 is no player in position to receive a hand-to-hand snap, or at the snap, either a player with their knee on the ground to receive the snaps about 7 yards back, or player in position to receive a long snap 10 yards back would be a time where we have the numbering exception. And I will continue with this. Our numbering exceptions on first, second, and third down. A must set or shift into a scrimmage kick formation, like we just talked about. The snapper may be a player numbered 0 through 49 or 80 through 99. So like you were talking about, where you had number 42 as your center and doing some type of almost lateral snap to the side to get that jet sweep going or get that sweep going. 4 players must be 50 through 79 at that time, and the snapper must be between the ends and is ineligible by position. So this is when they set or shift into a scrimmage kick on first, second, or third down. If it is an offensive formation and you have 42 as your snapper, there still must be 5 people out there with 50 through 79. So that's where it is important to understand that when you have that muddle huddle play in the middle of the field type of scenario, still got to have those numbers out there. But if you're going for a field goal on first down, late in the game, late in the quarter, whatever it is, late in half, I should say, off of a fair catch, which we went over last week, those numbering exceptions are in place. So we're good there. So now on fourth down or a try for kick, I'll get back to you. On fourth down or a try for kick, must set or shift into a scrimmage kick formation. We talked about any player numbered 0 through 49 or 88 through 99 may take place of anybody 50 through 79. Must assume initial position on the line of scrimmage between the ends and remains ineligible by position during the down. So this one is more going to be our punts. Your punts, you typically are going to have, ideally, you want to have linebackers and safeties being your punt coverage team, as opposed to your offensive linemen being your punt coverage team, because your linebackers and safeties typically are more athletic. As an offensive lineman, it pains me to say that, but they're typically more athletic. They can cover the field more. They're better tacklers. So you're looking to have those out there, and they might not hit the number eligibility. So go ahead with your question, sir.
So I just have a question about alignment here, and it is on topic just because of we're talking formations here. So last year we let a tight end essentially snap the ball to the quarterback, but he was the last man on the end of the line of scrimmage. Is he afforded all the same protections as a center would be, like where you can't hit his wrist or his hands because he's the snapper? So he is snapping the ball.
So he's afforded the person trying to swipe and knock the ball out of his hand, yes, but as soon as he snaps the ball, he can get blasted unless he is in a scrimmage kick formation.
Of course. Okay.
All right, and here you see formation and numbering. So you kind of see an unbalanced formation here where they've got 59 as the tight end to the left, and they've got number 10 as a tight end to the right side. But number 10 is still ineligible, not because of his number, but because number 81 on the right side is covering him up formationally.
Yes.
So that's understanding and knowing who we have. 59 is eligible by formation, but he's not eligible by number. So we got to know both. And our next one is our kick formation here. You could see number 79 is basically your personal protector off the line of scrimmage. They are ineligible by number. 22 is the long snapper here. He or she is ineligible by formation. So even though they've got the ineligible number on, they are ineligible. So if the snap is low and all of a sudden the punter is scrambling around and they look to throw the ball and they throw the ball to number 22, well, we're going to have an illegal touching right there. So we're going to have a penalty. And that is something that we did have happen here in New Jersey a couple of years back that ended up losing a game for a team where they threw it to number 42 at guard. And it trained me now as an umpire. I'm on my O to O announcing who the ineligible people are by formation on kick plays like this. So I would be on my O to O saying 22 ineligible, 22 ineligible. Not that I'm always going to remember it, but now if any of my other crewmates see 22 catch the ball, we all are aware of it. So there's times I'm calling out 5 guys that are ineligible.
Now we've got 79 here is in the backfield. So by formation, he's eligible. You said he's ineligible by number. Correct. He can still catch a pass behind the line of scrimmage, correct?
Behind the line of scrimmage?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
So if there is a scoop and craziness ensues and you shovel it over to 79, you're fine. You could even run a fake screen if you wanted to, right? A fake punt screen and let him catch one as long as he's behind the line of scrimmage.
We're gonna actually talk about that, so I'm gonna hold off on answering that one because we're gonna talk about when that ineligible number can receive the ball.
I love it.
All right, so our shifts and motions, again, going back to Rule 2, a shift is an action of one or more offensive players who, after the huddle or after taking set positions, move and set to a new position. A shift is two or more people in motion. Okay, you could shift as many people as you want as long as they're not locked in, which we talked about. A motion is by a single player that is going in motion, and typically with the motion, they don't have to come to being set at that point in time. The ball can be snapped as they are moving, as long as it is perpendicular with the line of scrimmage, lateral with the line of scrimmage, not perpendicular. Canadian football is good. Wrong choice of words there. Sorry. So they have to be moving along the line of scrimmage, laterally with the line of scrimmage. So here we go. Our illegal shift versus an illegal motion. After the huddle or shift, all A players shall come to an absolute stop. And this is what we mentioned before. You got to remain stationary simultaneously. And we try to say for 1 second before the snap. If not, we got an illegal shift. The signal for that is two arms chopping, 5-yard penalty, and it is two or more players moving at the snap. An illegal motion is only one player may be in motion at the snap, and his motion cannot be towards the opponent's goal line. So that's where I was talking about. They got to be going laterally to the line of scrimmage. You can't be moving forward, but they can be going backward. So for your orbit type motion where you're going behind the quarterback, that's going towards your own line of scrimmage, you are good. But you got to be mindful of that. If they get beyond the quarterback and they start turning it and coming back up towards the line of scrimmage, that is an illegal motion penalty. So that is going to be one arm chop, okay? And that's going to be your 5-yard penalty also. Again, because we can reset, these are live ball fouls. We are not killing it. We're going to let this play go, and we're going to make the termination after the conclusion of the play on if the defense is going to accept these penalties or not. So, Daniel, you're in a hurry-up mode. You break the huddle. All your players sprint out to the line. Center puts his hand on the ball. Your receiver is going really wide, but they don't get set, and the ball is snapped. What do you got?
I think you have to have illegal formation or something. Illegal motion, I guess. I don't know. I feel like he can't just just stay in motion. He has to get set for a amount of time, right?
Yeah, and so you can call both as an illegal shift or an illegal motion in that scenario, but because they're still going to be the same type of, it's still going to penalize the offense the same way. It's a 5-yard penalty. But if they're moving when the ball is snapped, we're going to have an illegal motion. If they didn't pause long enough, it's going to be an illegal shift. So this is where and this is one that drives me nuts, and we got to get better at it as officials and as coaches, of teaching the quarterbacks when they're going to put somebody in motion. Because if you're a team that offensive line goes down on a cadence, their hand goes down, but as their hand is going down, the quarterback now kicks a receiver to come in motion. You now got two people moving at that point in time. Technically, that's going to be illegal motion because your lineman is going to get set with their hand in the ground, but the quarterback's got to pause when the line gets set before they kick people in motion. And a lot of quarterbacks are just very antsy to come out, and they're kicking the kids right away in motion. They're drop stepping, however it is, if they're under center, sending that person in motion as the linemen are going down. That's two people moving. We got to hit them on that. So coaches, reiterate that one.
I've never really thought about it, like if they just stay in motion, because you're talking about after a huddle. What if you are a no huddle team? I guess you have to show a set formation before you can even go in motion, right?
Correct.
I got
All
this
right.
one. This one looks easy.
Yeah.
Handing 2-19, transferring the ball from one player to another where both players are in contact with the ball at the same time. We talked about this one on previous episode. If you go back to that chapter 2 or Rule 2 episode. Forward handing, the ball is handed ahead of original runner's position, and in backward handing, ball is handed behind the original runner's position.
So I'll let you roll right into this one.
Yep. Any player may hand the ball backward at any time. It's no different than a pitch, right? We've talked about backwards passes and such. No player may hand the ball forward except during a scrimmage down before a change of possession, provided both players are in or behind the neutral zone, and it is to a back or teammate who was on an end of his line at the snap and was not the snapper nor adjacent to the snapper. That gets really crazy. It is to a lineman who clearly faced his end line by moving both feet and is at least 1 yard behind his line when he receives the ball. We're getting some chaos here. And then no player may hand the ball forward beyond the neutral zone or after a change of possession. Penalty, illegal handing, signal 35 or 9, I assume. And then, or both. It's two signals, right?
It's both.
And then 5 yards and a loss of down.
The loss of down is the second signal, so that's signal 9.
So, all right, so walk me through that chaos in the middle there.
Yeah, so the fumble Rooski play. The fumble Rooski play can happen if you have a lineman who clearly turns around at the snap, turns around and faces their own goal line. So they have their back to the defense, and they are 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage when they receive a handoff from the quarterback. So they can't just be a pulling guard and go, or I should say a pulling tackle, because they cannot be directly adjacent to the snapper. So a pulling tackle can't be the guy that's running GT counter and the quarterback hands it off to the tackle whose shoulders are turned towards the sidelines, not turned completely around. So it's where you are allowed to have that fumble Rooski play when they are a lineman in that scenario. So from there, it's not common that it ever happens, but we just got to be mindful of that team that is looking to do it. So if you want to come and you want to line up your tackle, you have 5 ineligible numbers, but you have your tackle facing the wrong way, well, we're going to have an illegal formation because they do need to be facing upfield in some capacity. But then at the snap of the ball, they want to hop, turn around, take a step backwards, and then receive a handoff without getting the quarterback killed because they have their back to the defense. Go for it. Yeah, it's one of those really odd nuance type plays that, again, it's one of those scenarios I have never personally seen actually happen, but it's in the rule book, so we got to know it.
Is a tight end, inline tight end, is he considered a lineman here?
Is he covered up by a receiver?
If he's not.
If he's not, then he is good to go. So you can run
he can
tight end
receive
reverse.
the handoff or a fumble Rooski-esque. Okay.
Yep. And it says no player shall hand the ball forward beyond the neutral zone or after a change of possession. You get those daring teams, they get an interception and they want to keep the ball moving. And so they hand the ball to another. It's a defensive lineman that picked up a fumble, but he's going towards the opponent's end zone and he hands the ball forward to the defensive back. And that's an illegal forward handoff. So that would be a loss of down penalty. Although we don't have the loss of down because it was a change of possession. So that goes into a whole nother nuance when we get to adjudicating the rules and the penalties and scenarios like that. But any type of forward handoff beyond the neutral zone is an illegal handoff, and it could be a loss of down. All right, definitions. Again, back to Rule 2. A fumble is any loss of player possession other than handing, passing, or a legal kick. A pass is throwing the ball in player possession so that it travels in flight. And a backward pass is thrown with the initial direction parallel or towards your own goal line. It ends when it is caught, recovered, or goes out of bounds. So again, just going over Rule 2 once again. So now how it comes into play with Rule 7. So a fumble or backward pass may be advanced by any player after it is caught or recovered. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. So fumble can be advanced. The ball belongs to the passing or fumbling team if the loose ball goes out of bounds between the goal lines. So if I run a toss sweep and I launch the ball over my running back's head and it goes all the way out of bounds, we're still going to maintain possession of that ball because we were the initial team. It becomes dead inbound and no player takes possession. Everybody just kind of stands around. Oh, what do we do now, coach? All right, we're going to keep it to the passing team at that point. Or the ball becomes dead inbounds with joint possession. And again, this is now where our pile up comes into play. When the fumble comes and you've got that scrum and there's just bodies on top of bodies and we're trying to kind of pull bodies out to see who's got it. If it's joint possession, when we see it, we're going with the offense having that one at that point. If a fumble or backward pass goes out of bounds behind the goal line, it belongs to the team that's defending that goal line. And in this scenario, it is either going to be a touchback or a safety. And we'll talk more about that in Rule 8, as you can see by the notation there when we talk about our scoring plays and when we talk about force and momentum coming up in Rule 8. So that's a fun one. Questions there, sir?
I look forward to Rule 8 when we discuss whether that's a touchback or a safety. That's always because we see like a lot of times when you're punting, right? If they snap it over the punter's head, it's a safety. But when would it be a touchback? So I'm pretty interested in Rule 8. So y'all tune in for Rule 8.
Yes, sir. All right. So you want to take forward pass classification?
Yep. It is a legal forward pass if during a scrimmage down and before team possession has changed, a player of the offense or team A throws the ball with both feet of the passer in or behind the neutral zone when the ball is released. It's different than NFL, right? Because NFL, like a hair on your head can be behind it and you're good.
Yep. And that's why we have it underlined.
Only one forward pass may be thrown during the down. Definition: passing, Rule 231, throwing a ball in player possession so that it travels in flight. Forward pass thrown with initial direction towards the opponent's goal line has gone beyond the neutral zone if at any point the entire ball is beyond the neutral zone. Ends when caught, touches the ground, or is out of bounds. The passer, 232-12, player who throws a legal forward pass, continues until the pass ends or he moves to participate in the play. So you can't get a roughing the passer if your quarterback throws it and then runs out there be a lead blocker.
Correct. But you can get a roughing the passer if you hand it off to a running back and the running back runs a toss pass. That passer is afforded protection of roughing the passer, so you can't just blow up the running back at that point in time.
Which is sneaky because he could just pull it and run.
Yes. So I want to go back up to the top bullet point. So you mentioned it in the NFL level, the Sunday games that you see it, they just literally have to have like a shoelace behind the line of scrimmage or neutral zone for them to be considered behind. In the high school game, NFHS, we have to have both feet in or behind the neutral zone when the ball is released. So mechanics wise, this is one reason why here in New Jersey, we went with the 6-man crew because our mechanics, both of our short wings, are holding the line of scrimmage because they're looking for that. And your 5-man crews, which a lot of the country still is at 5-man mechanics, when those short wings read pass, they're starting to float downfield because they've got to get the spot, catch, and everything like that. And you'll start seeing your umpire starting to creep up to the line of scrimmage, and they're looking to try to get the feet of the quarterback for if it was a forward pass or not. So this is where our mechanics do change a little bit. So we got to understand that. Here in New Jersey, if we're inside the 7-yard line, I've got the line of scrimmage. Our wings have the goal line. So I got to know who's going to be where and when. So this is where we communicate. The second part of that, only one forward pass may be thrown during a down. This doesn't matter who does it. We've seen now the jet sweep play come into that little forward pop pass. And I saw a team then take that forward pop pass and make it like a reverse pass and throw a second pass. And that's 2 forward passes at that point. So that's a penalty. And also a ball batted back to the quarterback. Quarterback is rolling out, throws a pass. The defensive lineman swats the ball. The quarterback recatches the ball again and now tries to throw it again because they were the original passer. They thought they could throw a second pass, but technically, no, they cannot. What they would get if they didn't throw that second pass is they would get a completion. So their quarterback percentage would go up, and they'd also get in the stat line for having a reception as a wide receiver. Depends on if they gained any yards. But
right.
I think Brett Favre's first completed pass was to himself in the NFL. And you can fact check me on that one, but I'm pretty sure that happened to Brett Favre. His first pass completion was to Brett Favre.
So I have a question here about not having 2 forward passes. The definition is has to be thrown forward, but has to go beyond the neutral zone. So my jet sweep little pop pass, the ball stays behind the neutral zone. Is that still considered a forward pass?
It is.
Even though it didn't go beyond the neutral zone.
Yep. So the initial direction is towards the opponent's goal line. So that's going to be the overriding factor there. Where we need to know, did it go beyond the neutral zone now is when we get into blocks downfield for our offensive interference, more so on our screens and things like that. So the overriding one is thrown with the initial direction towards the opponent's goal line.
Perfect.
So that's why that pop pass is illegal. The second pass off the pop pass, I should say. All right. So we got our illegal forward passes, 7-5-2. So a pass after team possesses has changed possession during the down. So you intercept the ball and then you try to launch the ball downfield to a teammate. That's an illegal forward pass. A pass from beyond the neutral zone, which we just talked about. A second or subsequent pass thrown during the down. Again, just talked about that. A pass intentionally thrown into an area not occupied by an eligible receiver, or a pass initially thrown incomplete to conserve yardage or time. These are our intentional grounding penalties, which are 5 yards and a loss of down. But now the NFHS caught up, and we do have exceptions to our intentional grounding, which is where I want to go with this. Daniel, do you know the exceptions to the intentional grounding rules?
I think we're losing you, Mike. It must be rainy in Mike's world. In Jersey. You're the best, Mike. When you come back to edit this out, I just want you to know that. Might be another reason to live in the South. Good internet. Hey, welcome back.
Hey there.
All right. We'll have to go back to that last one. You were asking me a question. I think it was one of the exceptions. And I think this is going to go into my question that I had about an incomplete pass to conserve yardage or time. Even if there's a player in the area, you can still flag me for that.
So we do have
it's a two-parter there. So
let's just talk about weird. So spiking the ball, conserving the time. And I think I'm going to freeze up on you once again, but conserving the time so you could spike the ball even now from being in the shotgun position, as long as it's initial and you catch it and you spike the ball right away. That used to be you had to be under center, but we learned that if a team is 100% shotgun, why are we going to tell them to go under center to take that snap to spike the ball? Let them do it from where they are. The intentional grounding now to conserve yardage. It must be beyond the lateral boundary of the free blocking zone as established by the snap. So basically, in layman's term, outside the tackle box is what we're looking for. We like to use, and our umpire, myself, we use lanyards on our hands for where the ball is snapped from, so that if it's an incomplete play, I know where to replace the ball down. So if the ball is on the left hash, we call that spot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So left hash, left upright, middle of the field, right upright, right hash. So going across like that, that kind of gives us a gauge of where the tackle box would be, because the tackle box changes when the ball is snapped. So the pass must get to at least to the neutral zone. I'm going to keep going here, and we'll see what we have to do.
Is this a good time to say, go to buy me a beer? Go to buy me a beer, buymeacoffee.com, and find Mike. And let's get him some Starlink. Whoa, it kicked him all the way out. Do you need Starlink, Mike? Is that the answer? Find out next time on Whistle Talk. Mike says it's really beautiful outside in Jersey, so no rain to blame this time. Talking exceptions. So Mike's going to talk to us about these exceptions because they still don't make sense to me. Spiking does 100%. An intentional incomplete pass. It's weird that there's a rule that says that we can't intentionally throw an incompletion, and then an exception that says that rule doesn't matter. So go for gold, Jeffy. Forward pass, complete or incomplete. A forward pass, legal or illegal, is complete when caught by any player of A or B, so the offense or defense, may be advanced by either team. Simultaneous catch belongs to the offense, or the passing team. Tie goes to the runner, right? A forward pass, illegal or legal, is incomplete when pass touches the ground or goes out of bounds. Player in the air possesses the pass and lands with first contact out of bounds. Ball becomes dead and down counts. Or legal passing team next snaps from previous spot. Whew, that's we'll have to wait on a Mike ruling there. Mike, give us a ruling on legal passing team next snap from previous spot. Unless it was fourth down, because that would make it an incomplete pass, which doesn't make sense. Illegal forward passes are still complete or incomplete despite being a foul. So you can still lose the down and then lose some yardage, which is already said. You lose a down. It's said back here somewhere. All right, illegal forward pass, penalties and notes. Illegal forward pass is treated the same as any other pass, complete or incomplete, and can be advanced when caught by either team. So we're not just going to blow it dead immediately for it being an illegal forward pass. We're just going to throw out a penalty marker and come back and discuss after the events. Illegal forward pass penalty accepted, enforced from spot of illegal forward pass, so where it was thrown. Of course, then you get your yardage and loss of down. An illegal forward pass penalty declined. If it was incomplete, the down counts at the spot of the illegal forward pass or penalty enforced. Unlikely, as a 5 yards and potential loss down will go in favor of the offended team. You wouldn't want to decline it because you're not giving them an extra down anyway. You're still going to cost them the down and the 5 yards, but you can if you want. If it was complete, ball put in play based on action which followed the catch or the penalty enforcement, likely only occur if there's a turnover, essentially. So it says illegal forward passes caught by team B. Obviously, if you intercept it, you don't care that the pass was illegal. You want the interception. I would think the same would occur if the receiver catches it and then runs and then fumbles, and now you pick it up. You obviously want the fumble most of the time. Everything's situational. All right, pass eligibility rules. Legal forward pass. Team A must be eligible by position and number. Must be on end of scrimmage line, so obviously your ends, or behind the line, so back. So tight end or one of the backs or receivers. Got to have the number eligibility, so 0 to 49 and 80 to 99. Players numbered 0 to 49 and 80 to 99 can be ineligible by position. So obviously if they're covered up, that couldn't be one of your 5, but if they get covered up by anyone, then their numbers would still, or by position, they would still be ineligible. Remember the numbering exceptions for different formations. All teams, hey, Mike's back.
Yes.
All team A players become eligible when B touches a legal forward pass, which is big time to know. If the defender swats out of there and your right guard catches it, he is completely okay to advance that ball. He becomes an eligible receiver. Team B, all players are eligible. Basically, any of them can intercept it. Player who is eligible at the start of a down remains eligible throughout the down. Mike, we had one question. I say we, it was me, as I was trying to do your job here. This last one here, legal. So it's a forward pass, whether legal or illegal, is incomplete if it is a legal forward pass and the passing team next snaps from previous spot. What does that even mean? That's word salad to me. What am I missing?
So if it's a legal forward pass, it is, and it's incomplete, we're going back to where the ball was previously spotted and placed.
Oh, okay. So it's just saying what happened.
Correct.
Because it's under the thing that says this makes a forward pass incomplete. And then it just some formatting there, I think. I screwed up the formatting. Okay. Too easy. Well, that makes sense. At least word salad was in our favor. So going back to eligibility formation, obviously we've already talked about it. This would be 42 here would be covered up. Everyone circled is eligible. 79 is not eligible by number on the left, and 42 is not eligible by position on the right. If this is the true number 88, then he is an eligible end, a tight end here in this case. So just a couple examples there of what can make you eligible or ineligible. Numbering exception eligibility, we've already talked about this. Numbers 1 through 5 are all eligible by formation. The guys that are in the covered up position, so 9 and 33, are ineligible by formation or by position because they're covered up by outer wide receivers. 22, 11, and 7 are ineligible for the same reasons. They are covered up. And of course, 11, the snapper, is always deemed ineligible, as well as the guards.
Because they're covered up. So
the snapper because he's the snapper, everyone else because they're covered up.
Correct. And that exception comes on 4th down plays only, so that you're allowed to have all of those individuals out there without a 50 through 79 number 79 on the field.
All right. I'll let you get this one. You're back. Welcome back.
I'm back. And ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is not brought to you by Verizon Wireless because apparently you can't hear me now. Like, what the heck?
Got it.
Man,
that sucks for them. We talked about you getting Starlink while you were gone. So we're going to go to buy me a coffee or buy me a beer, and we're going to get Mike Starlink money.
There we go. All right. So ineligible player restrictions, ineligible player, ineligible downfield, so beyond the expanded neutral zone. An ineligible A player may not advance beyond the expanded neutral zone before the legal forward pass crosses the neutral zone in flight, and the restriction is terminated if the pass is touched by B in or behind the neutral zone. So our penalty for that is going to be an ineligible man downfield. Now, when we're talking about the expanded neutral zone, it's usually a 2 yard buffer. Some people are going to go with a 3 yard buffer, but your RPO status is going to be your expanded neutral zone. So we cannot have a lineman just going all the way downfield, blocking a linebacker. That's going to be ineligible downfield unless the ball was thrown behind the line of scrimmage. So that's where your screen passes do come into play. So now that is ineligible. That's a 5 yard penalty. And typically going to replay that down. It's not a loss of down penalty, which many people do think. Our illegal touching is a loss of down penalty, and this is by an ineligible A player. So illegal touching must bat, muff, or kick a legal forward pass. It is not illegal touching if it's an incidental touching. So if I'm an offensive lineman, number 79, and the quarterback throws the ball and hits me in the back of the helmet, we're not going to call an illegal touching on that one because that was incidental. But if I bat, if I muff, or if I catch that pass as number 79, now you've got illegal touching. And the restriction, as I heard you mention as I came back, is terminated if the pass is touched first by B. So if B swats the ball and the ball goes up in the air, me, number 79, I can come down, catch that ball, and gain yardage with it. This is the time where our offensive lineman can get into that stat book. So that will terminate the restriction of it no matter where the ball was passed, as long as the ball is touched by Team B first.
Awesome. Pass interference restrictions only apply beyond the neutral zone and only if a legal forward pass crosses the neutral zone. If the pass is touched by B or the defense in or behind the neutral zone, restrictions are off. And restrictions in effect for all A and B players until the ball is touched or incomplete. So pass interference. Let's just move on. This is always a tricky one, right? Like,
yeah,
what is or isn't pass interference?
We're going to dive into it in the next couple slides too to clarify it.
When do pass interference restrictions begin? So Team A at the snap and Team B when the ball leaves the passer's hand. Going to need some explanation on at the snap for Team A. How would I have pass interference from the snap when the quarterback's holding the ball?
If your receivers are blocking downfield right at the snap and the ball gets thrown downfield, that's going to be offensive pass interference. With defensive pass interference, if I'm putting hands on the receiver and I'm kind of chucking them all the way down the field, high school, we don't have that 5 yard barrier. So there can be hands on the whole time. But when that ball is released from the quarterback's hands, now we'll have pass interference.
Okay. When do pass interference restrictions end? Eligible A players and B players when the pass is touched. Ineligible A players when pass is touched by B. And then all players when the pass is incomplete. Pass ends or the ball is dead.
So
good stuff to know there.
So with that one, you'll see if the ball gets deflected, okay, when the pass is touched, you're going to see me as the umpire give a tip signal, because now that takes away any type of interference restrictions that might go on behind me. So if that ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage and flutters up in the air, your defensive player can, in essence, take out that wide receiver. Now you'll have your unnecessary roughness calls and things like that, and targeting that could come into play, but you're not going to have interference anymore. So if we knock the player down, we're good to go at that scenario. So,
which is what we teach, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Go tackling. Once it's tipped, go tackling.
Yes. All right.
Continue on pass interference. Any A or B player beyond the neutral zone interferes with an eligible opponent's opportunity to move forward, catch, or bat the pass. So move forward there obviously is we talked restrictions in the last one, because you can, as a defensive player, maul the wide receiver in lack of other words until the ball is released.
Correct.
And then not pass interference. Unavoidable contact occurs when opponents make a simultaneous bona fide attempt. So that gets back into once the ball's released, everybody's offense, right? Go get the ball.
Correct.
Contact by A is immediately made on a B lineman and remains within the expanded neutral zone. Ineligible A players using hands and arms in a legal block. And then contact by B is obviously away from the direction of the pass. So you can't, if the pass is thrown to the field, the boundary guy should not get a pass interference call
Correct.
no matter what,
Correct.
regardless if the ball's released or not.
Yep. So I want to go back up to contact by A is immediately made on a B lineman and remains within the expanded neutral zone. If I've got a monster right tackle and he's just mauling people and driving them downfield, and you throw the ball downfield, if the contact was initially made at the line of scrimmage onto this right tackle, onto a defensive end per se, we're not going to call any type of interference or illegal man downfield in that scenario because it happened at the line of scrimmage. And it says remains within the expanded neutral zone, but we're gonna lean towards, well, your kid's just not as good as their kid, so I'm not going to penalize them for that. And now I want to go back to where you were talking about where the defense is allowed to maul them unless it is the ball is in the air. Defensive holding still does come into play. So if your mauling includes any type of grabbing of uniform or anything like that, that is restricting the receiver from going downfield and being in the route, okay, that can be called. And this is where the defensive coordinators always yell, well, the defense is allowed to hold. Yes, the defense is allowed to hold when trying to shed a blocker and things like that, but they cannot hold in to restrict any type of receiver from going forward. If that receiver is not in any type of blocking posture, that can be a holding penalty. So got to know the difference. So you can't just grab the wide receiver and throw them to the ground if that receiver is trying to go and run a route. But if that receiver is coming out to try to block you, you could take that receiver, chuck them, okay, hands on, and then throw them hard to the side. That is perfectly legal at that point in time.
When we talk rerouting of receivers, so on defense, obviously we want to get people off their routes. We're going to what we call rerouting them. And I kind of want to ask this because we just talked about a lineman can block for 50 yards and not be, illegal downfield as long as he made contact in the beginning. If I make contact with a receiver and we are locked up through the play and the quarterback tries to throw him the ball,
once the ball is in the air, now it becomes interference.
You got to let go.
Yep.
Okay. So rerouting, you just have to make a conscious effort to let go and let that guy go.
Yeah, and when you're talking rerouting, it still can't be by gripping. It could be by jamming hard and keeping a hand on them and forcing them. But if you grab cloth and reroute them that way, you could get called for defensive holding in that scenario. And your defensive holding penalty is going to be your 10-yard penalty, where in high school, we've talked about this a number of times, interference penalties are 15-yard penalties. They are not automatic first downs. So
right. It's not one of the roughings.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. So this goes into our second to last slide here with pass interference. This is the first true judgment call that we have discussed. I have a whole episode here with Andrew Rosenblum on earlier episodes, just going over interference and what we talk about it. But it is going to be a judgment call because what you may think is going for the ball, I might not think is going for the ball and things like that. So there definitely comes into play where, when did that contact occur? Was it simultaneous with the ball getting to the receiver's hand, or did you have the grab and restrict? And we do break it down with what requirements we are looking for with it. So some philosophy and factors that go into us calling it intentional or inadvertent act. Level of play, we're going to definitely always take that into consideration. And playing the ball versus playing the man. These are going to be some things that we're going to be kind of thinking of. And again, here's where, that flag was so late. No, we're making sure that we hit different requirements in our mind to make sure that that's what we have. So when you see the flag come out.
So playing the ball, I mean, if you go get an interception as a DB, you plant a foot and you go poach the ball out of the air, but you ran through a receiver's shoulder to get there. Is it playing the ball waives the interference?
And again, that's where the judgment comes in. So the way you're describing it, I'm not throwing a flag on that one. Because
you got the ball.
Yeah, there was never any intention for me going towards the man. I was going to the ball. It just, I got to imagine that the field is invisible and it's just me and the ball that is out there. I'm going strictly for the ball and making a play on the ball. I should be good to go.
So this isn't like basketball where you can get an over the back when you're going for a rebound here.
Correct.
It's like that guy doesn't exist.
Correct.
Love it. But yeah, last slide here.
All right. So our interference examples for the DPI penalty, you got early contact, that's not playing the ball. playing through the back of a receiver. So this again goes to how you kind of described your last one. Um, if I'm truly just going for the ball, that doesn't matter in my opinion. The grabbing and restricting, that's going to be, and this is where it's not going to be holding, but when you get that arm around the waist type of thing, and you see that turn, that's typically where we're going to get it. Extending the arm across the body or cutting off or taking the receiver off their path. So when you're talking again that rerouting is good until that ball comes into the air. And then the hook and restrict. And again, there's our turn of the body. Those are the different things that we're going to be looking for. On the offensive side, creating separation. Okay, you see that arm extend, we're probably going to throw it on the offense at that point in time. I always like to teach my receivers the bent elbow technique. If I'm going to try to create separation, I want to keep my arm in. That separation there, just to my forearm, is enough for me to catch the ball. Once I see that arm get extended, that's where you're typically going to see the flag. Driving through a defender, going to be an offensive interference. Your pick plays, okay? Your pick plays need contact. So if I'm rerouting the coverage person by running my play and I'm running a route, okay, that's going to be good. But if I'm just setting a pick and I stand there and I do an old school basketball pick and knock you off, okay, and there's contact, well, then we're going to have offensive pass interference and blocking beyond the expanded neutral zone. So my receiver goes downfield and it's a screen pass, but the ball goes beyond the neutral zone and I'm blocking beyond the expanded neutral zone. Well, we're going to have offensive penalty in that one. If the ball is thrown behind the expanded neutral zone, you don't have offensive pass interference on any of those ones. So that is a requirement that the ball must go beyond the neutral zone for it to be an offensive interference penalty.
So if an offensive lineman goes beyond the neutral zone, okay, the expanded and makes contact with a linebacker to pass pro, why ever that would happen, I don't know. Maybe it's a play action pass. Is he getting illegal man downfield, or is he getting an offensive pass interference? And as a coach that is being offended, which one should I want there? Which one's going to give me the best situation?
I'm going to say 99% of the time you would get an illegal man downfield penalty. So this a 5-yard variety as opposed to a 15-yard penalty. Unless you have a shallow cross that's being run right there, that linebacker who you're play action blocking on had an opportunity to make a play on the ball, we're not going to call offensive interference in that scenario. So
sweet. That's it, man.
All right.
We did the thing.
We did it. Sort of. You did it.
Nah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new show, Whistle Talk by Daniel Chamberlain. Because Mike D'Ambrosio seems to have internet issues all the freaking time.
It's okay, man. It happens. Although I will say, I'm just going to let you know why the South is better, Mike. I recorded with a tornado like 15 miles west of me with Joe one night. So we can have tornadoes and still get internet, and it sunshines there and you lose yours. It's just, the South is better.
You're not really the South, though. You're the Midwest. You're kind of middle of the road.
Oklahoma is the South. There's only one state south of us.
Yeah, but it happens to be the third largest state in the country.
Tennessee is east of us directly, and it's the South.
All right.
I'm taking it. I'm taking it.
We could debate that another
Joe
time.
would come on and say, well, Virginia is due east of you as well. Are we the South? And the answer is yes, until you get north of Richmond.
Oh, that's what the line of demarcation?
That's the line. Yeah. If you got a Richmond zip code, you're good.
Oh, okay.
If you go north of there, now you're Yankees.
Well,
and I tell Joe he's a Yankee all the time anyway.
I technically am in South Jersey, which people from North Jersey say we're in the deep South. So,
let's go. We're all one tribe.
Yes, sir. Well, Daniel, once again, I thank you for your help and for your internet. And
so charging you rent.
Yeah, seriously. But great stuff. We have 3 more rules that we got to tackle. We got 8, 9, and 10 that are left, and then we are done with our NFHS rulebook series, and then we can start talking about just the plays itself and go back to football. But we're getting to that point. Season's coming upon us very quickly, and once again, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to jump on here.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come on and get better educated about the rule book. I've been talking for at least a year now about weaponizing the rule book, but you can't do it if you don't know it. Kenny and I just had a conversation. Maybe it was Joe and I. We had a conversation about, if you're a coach, become the rule book guy, right? Be the guy that everyone goes, hey, what's going on here? And if you don't have that guy, create one or be him. Thank you for letting me kind of sit through this. Shoot, I'm learning a ton. I get to ask stupid questions and
Never.
poke holes in the rule book while you poke holes in my thoughts as a coach. So
There you go. That's what we're here for. Make everybody better at the sport that we love.
we know that triple option should be penalized every time because it is deceiving the defense.
God, I love it.
That's it.
I love it.
Throw the flags.
No. Love it. Just don't cut block.
Throw the flags.
No chop blocks.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, buddy. Much again. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode here. Check out Daniel all over the place, social media, Coach Shambo, okay, all over social media, Coaching 101, and the Joe Daniel podcast. He's all over the place. He's guests on 19 different shows as well, too. So you can always find him out there. But once again, thank you. Hit those like, subscribe buttons. Now, the internet's making my voice go. But
that's what it is. Blame the internet.
Yep, always. Gonna have a nice talk with Verizon right now. All right, buddy. I will talk to you next week.